what's up, guys? Time for another video. Yeah, here's one subject I've been meaning to talk about that I saw on the TV news a past week or whatever the hell. And I'm going to talk in parentheses, but not go on and on about it. But a subject matter like this, similar to that other video I did about Kevin McSwiggan, the one guy who was actually should have been theoretically considered a convicted rapist, but yet he ended up ultimately going to jail for road rage, shooting an off-duty cop. And just like that video, not to talk too much about it, a subject matter like this particular piece of living refuse that I'm going to talk about, like I saw on the TV news. The reason why I talk about stuff like this, because back, different eras of YouTube, even the past few years ago, even when I was in my own my old home and old neighborhood, there was different trends on YouTube. One of the trends were, the anti-feminist YouTube channels like Sargon of Akkad, and I still followed them for a lot of their other issues they're talking about now, but there used to be a trend, right? You had the anti-feminist women, the anti-feminist feminists who are more consistent about things and issues that make sense, and against the feminist fanatics, which you still got now, the feminist slash anti-white crowds that people were against on YouTube and people pushing that shit. But anyway, I'm not going on too much about this. My point about following shit like that back and forth, my whole point to what I was saying here is people argue about the extreme sides of one narrative here and there about this crazy scumbags that really do exist as far as sexual entitlement, like Kevin McSwiggan. And this guy, I just showed you the article in my video here. That's why I'm sort of comparing anyway. And I brought up feminist fanatics because you try to tell them, well, there's pieces of shit like I'm showing you here that do exist, but then there's a side that's never satisfied and think that all men are out to get them or whatever. But anyway, I try to give you the reasons, instead of going right to the point in this video about why people like this guy is a piece of shit. Like, I invite you to read the article, and why, people like this really exist. And when they're caught, there are people like that, and they should be punished. Like this particular guy, riding around, he evidently was accused of a bunch of other sexual assaults or rapes or whatever. They check any DNA and they find it, but this particular incident, he evidently was following other women around on a motorcycle, propositioning them, and they say no and chasing after him. But this particular one, she said no, and he chased after her, and she ducked somewhere in a garage under construction, but he caught her, and then she was assaulted, but then she called the cops. And just like Mr. Kevin McSwiggan, the one that shot the off-duty cop, he was accused of the same thing as a lifeguard. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, these were Mr. sexually entitled, and if you call the cops on me or tell anybody on me, I will kill you in blood. This guy did a similar thing. Reason why I talk about this stuff, that people like that really exist, unlike with you tell feminist fanatics and you admit to them, this stuff really exists, but yet the whole world ain't a rape culture. They get mad at you, but just like gun control, there are assholes with guns, but it's never good enough for the anti-gun crowd. But anyway, the same, different subjects, but the same attitude on both sides. But anyway, people on with a guy like this, you read the article, he really did what he did, and he got caught. And my point is, he literally expressed a type of sexual entitlement that really does exist, that you could tell a feminist fanatic, yes, does exist. Not everybody's like that, But anyway, my point is when something like this is caught, when you see that somebody caught doing this on the news, they're scum. They deserve, they deserve to be put away in prison somewhere where somebody will do the same to them and threaten the same thing to them. See how they like it. And before anybody, any feminist fanatic or race fanatic tries to say, oh yeah, put him in prison with a black guy, you're some kind of racist, you're stereotyping black people in prison. No, I'm not. And matter of fact, maybe this guy, when he goes to prison, he'll probably be in prison next to a tattooed blonde guy that maybe is nicknamed Bam Bam. So, hey, the person could be black, could be white, but you commit a crime like this, what do you think somebody in prison is going to do the same to you? That should be an incentive to never think of committing such a crime. That and another kind of a thing. Yeah, my stepdad actually used to be big on saying stuff like that too when he seen it on the news. But my stepdad also liked to say, well, whether you beat somebody down and do a home invasion or rob them or rape somebody, another thing my stepdad liked to say in his wisdom would be, one of his favorite things to say was, yeah, if the victim is related to the wrong Italian family, not the stereotype Italians, it could be the wrong black family, the wrong Italian family, whatever nationality that has maybe a mob type element where not that you're endorsing such violence, but yes, if you commit such a crime like a rape or a home invasion or any kind of thing like that, hey, if they're related to the wrong people and they catch you, yes, you will be in the trunk of somebody's car. Maybe nobody will ever see you again. You might be tortured somewhere, or maybe take you somewhere and you never know what they'll do. Not that you're endorsing that, but that should be a healthy fear, an incentive to not commit such a crime, right? But evidently that doesn't work on some of these people. They do it. They think that in an arrogance that they think that nothing's going to happen to them and they don't get caught. And then when they get caught, they think that the police are oppressing them or whatever. What gets me, why I talk about particular ones like this is the ones I choose to talk about, just like the Kevin McSwiggan thing I did a video on before I saw on the news. I'll do a video on ones where you see a entitlement or arrogance toward the person who commits the crime and or whatever, and no different than anybody else, like who, unlike the people where they're looking for a person they don't know identity, but every once in a while you get somebody that thinks he can just go right and do something, and without even disguising their identity or nothing. In a way, that's a good thing because they're that arrogant. It's easier for the police to catch him, and get a good description. If all the people of that attitude were like that, it would be a better world because it would be easier for them to get caught, and it would be a safer world, now wouldn't it? But if you get this far in this video too, if you got past all the other things that I mentioned that could and should happen to a particular person to commit crimes like this, how about then something more creative? If you think the justice system, like me, think the justice system is devoid of creativity, maybe a piece of shit like that should be tied to a chair and have a harmonica or a kazoo duct tape in their mouth and whipped in the groin with a rubber hose. So and then laugh at the interesting sounds or music that it'd make when they scream. That would be an interesting thing now, wouldn't it? But yeah, that's like pieces of shit like that. You know what I mean? That the arrogance. I mean, even though you can't stand these other groups out there, the extreme race things. If everything's all white people's fault and everything's all white men's fault, and always white men are a part of the whole male race is a rape culture or whatever. you try to tell these extremists, to satisfy them, yes, there is some ones out there with such arrogance that, yes, it does exist. And there's the other side of the narrative that tries to say a certain thing doesn't exist at all, which is also a bad thing. The extreme other side is a bad thing when you say, which is worse, you say a rape cult, there's every men are a rape culture or whatever the hell, or to say, get off the extreme other side to say it don't exist, which is more dangerous. Or just, I think each side is just as dangerous. And also, while I'm on the subject, well, it's not really off the subject to say this, as what's worse, being an actual racist in a way that you're taught the meaning of what racist is, being one. What's worse, being one of those, or being on the extreme other side, which in a lot of our books is also racism, like everything is white people fault and all white people are racist. I mean, I got the extreme both sides, and then if you point out, yes, there's a little bit of that going on, but there's a little bit of racism in a little bit of other people too, not just white, that think just because one cop did something, or just because one white person did something, no, all white people are. What is worse? Them posers that believe all that crazy shit that all white people were bad, or be Aryan nations type racist or whatever, or into Hitler or whatever. Hey, in my book, the extreme other side isn't any better than the Hitler loving crowd now, is it? You know what I mean? But that's a little off the subject. But I think that make videos like this, along with talking about what should happen to certain people if they're caught. My point is, there's kind of a culture of different kind of criminal violence out there, and assaults of these kinds. Yes, there is a culture of it, whether fanatics blame the whole world, but my point is, the stuff that's out there that you do see it out there, it should be punished. And some of us believe that maybe they're not being punished and made an example of enough, you know what I mean? So when I made this video, really, I picked these ones that seemed when they commit their crimes, that they feel entitled, you know what I mean? And you try to satisfy a little bit on both sides. And best thing you can do is express that a particular act that you hear about is disgusting, you know what I mean? So that's it.